Hello and welcome to the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. I'm Alex.
I'm Julio, and thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, head over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Help promote the algorithm and spread the word.
You can also find us on SoundCloud to subscribe and review, and don't forget to visit our main website, wearethecontrarians.com.
Follow us on Twitter at Contrarian Prime, and to like us on Facebook, visit facebook.com/Contrarian Prime.
And if you have the willpower to keep up with our pretentious ramblings, you can follow us individually at Contrarian Alex for myself and at Ovnio for Julio. That's OVNIO.
Now, time for the podcast. And we are recording for Contrarians Corner for The Sixth Sense, the final chapter in our Shyamalan anthology.
At long last, we end where it all began. In the year 1999. Yes, Stuart Little. An M. Night Shyamalan film. Man, this movie's so powerful, but when it ended and it like faded in word by word, and M. Night Shyamalan film, I could not help but laugh. The perfect way to end this. Hello, and welcome back to the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong. My name is Alex, joined as always by my friend and co-host, and for these past several episodes, past couple of months, my co-pilot, weaving in and out of the filmography of one Mr. M. Night Shyamalan for our aforementioned Shyamalan anthology. Julio, one of the more celebrated films of our lifetime, and one that I think we always knew we would eventually cover on here. And it's fitting. It's a perfect way. I think one of the whole ideas behind the Shyamalan anthology was that we would finally be able to do the Sixth Sense on the podcast here. So big happenings. It's a big evening.
We started with the happening. We're closing with a happening.
There you go. For those of you who maybe just be tuning in for this one, we started, as Julio said, with the happening as a part of the live stream for the Cure podcast-a-thon. And then we decided, fuck it. If we make enough donations during it, we'll start a whole M. Night Shyamalan journey. So we hit our goal, and that brought us through. We began with The Last Airbender, is that correct?
That's correct.
Then we moved our way to the Mel Gibson classic Signs from 2002. On our last episode, Julio and I visited the year, 3071. We went way into the future with After Earth, and now wrapping it up with The Sixth Sense. Not M. Night Shyamalan's first film that he had directed, as looks like Praying with Anger in 1992 and Wide Awake from 1998, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, a comedy drama.
With Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah, Rosie O'Donnell, Dennis Leary. My God. But this was the one, unquestionably, that put the man on the map and is the reason that he is still getting work to this day and releasing things like Old. Have you seen Old, Julio?
Not yet. I have high hopes that our social media guru, she went to see it, and I told her, hey, just record your thoughts after, and we'll put them somewhere. So, so I'm hoping that she does that, and we have at some point, maybe that'll be like our post-credit scene here, just Zoe telling us without spoiling Old what she thought of it. But I checked, it's at 50% on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Well, that, as we've learned, that can mean a lot of things. That's a loaded 50% right there. If this is your first time listening to the Contrarians, I guess that's a good segue into what it is we do. Here on the Contrarians, we like to rage against the Rotten Tomatoes machine. Find a movie on Rotten Tomatoes that is highly rated, a lot of times known as certified fresh, and we will make a case for why that is incorrect. Find some of the flaws, the foibles, just the things that were overlooked, underplayed, I should say, and just kind of swept under the rug, the negatives about the movies. And then on the other side of the coin, we will find a movie on Rotten Tomatoes that is lowly rated, one of those nasty green splotches known as rotten. We typically shoot for about 30% and below, and make a case for the things in those films that are, understated or that should have been celebrated and weren't, find great performances, what have you. We are here to tell you Rotten Tomatoes is a heavily flawed system, and that you can be over the moon about anything that you want to be, and you can be as cynical and negative about anything as you want to be. Julio, that comprises the first half of our podcast known as Contrarians Corner. We always provide a second half where we explain and go into detail about how we really feel about the movies that we're covering.
That is correct. On the second half of the show, aptly titled Real Talk, we tell you how we really feel about the movie The Sixth Sense. I haven't seen it since it came out. Alex, you've seen it more recently, but still, I saw your tweet. It's been a while. So how do we really feel about The Sixth Sense? And what are we going to talk about in Real Talk once we don't have to pretend that this movie sucks? We'll find out. I think this was the one chapter of the Shyamalan anthology that I was the most curious about, because in my mind, it was unlikely that I was going to change my mind about The Happening or The Last Airbender or even After Earth. But Signs was a pretty positive experience, more positive than I anticipated, therefore setting me up for a similar experience maybe with The Sixth Sense. But I'm not telling you yet, Alex. You're gonna have to wait along with everybody else to find out.
Yes, being that The Sixth Sense is at 86%, a little bit lower than we typically go. We usually shoot for about 90% and above, but as has been the case in the past, and surely will be the case in the future, we make exceptions for the big ones. But this first half of the podcast, we will be bringing M. Night Shyamalan down a peg as if that hasn't happened enough in his career and life.
It's gonna go like, is there nothing sacred? Can you at least leave The Sixth Sense alone?
It is certified fresh. It's one of those ones that dipped below 90% that still gets that fucking certified fresh logo next to it. That JPEG, that the coveted. It's like on Parks and Rec, Joan Calamezzo, her book club. If you get the sticker, your book becomes a bestseller. I'm sure I've made that joke before on the podcast.
We've certainly talked about people getting did they get gotcha with Joan? Is that the thing?
Joan gotcha. Yeah. Don't it hurt you?
That's every Shyamalan twist. M. Night gotcha.
All right, Julio. So how did you watch The Sixth Sense?
The Sixth Sense, I rented it on Amazon Prime.
Do you not have Peacock?
I don't. You're the cock user in this show.
That is definitely me. It's on Peacock for free. I think a lot of his movies are. Anyway,
I rented it. I rented it through Amazon. I watched it, and I was telling you about this earlier. This is how, it's not that I wasn't excited for this movie, but how I was just like, it's a Sixth Sense. I know The Sixth Sense. So I actually watched the first 30 minutes on my break at work today on my phone, as God intended. It looked fine. It was fine. It was a Sixth Sense. And then about maybe I was like 20 minutes in, maybe even sooner than that, and I started feeling guilty. And I was like, no, man, I need to watch this at home. And then, I got home and I watched the whole thing again in the big TV. So I gave it its due. It looked great.
I watched a DVD copy of it, one of the original DVD copies of it. It might be the original one. It's one I found recently at a flea market. You remember me talking about that huge haul I found at like a flea market out in Elgin? That was part of it. It was the first time I'd opened it since I bought it, and I looked at the back of the disc. I was like, no one's ever watched this. Like maybe once or twice. And back when DVDs were actually, the effort went into them. So the transfer was phenomenal. Widescreen, which was some people that listen to this may not know, but that was like a luxury back in the day, was having widescreen movies on DVD. But the table was set because it was one of those that still had like coming attractions on it before you could get to the menu for the movie. So there was like coming soon to theaters was the Mission to Mars, the De Palma movie. And the now available also on DVD and VHS was the 13th Warrior and From Dusk Till Dawn 3. Anyway, took me back to the days of DVDs really mattering. So that was nice. Looked great. Julio, we're going to say a lot of hyperbolic things during this because this movie was that big of a deal, especially to people during our lifetime. And we've talked about it before numerous times on this podcast. Maybe not the totality of the film being one of the most influential ever, but certainly of the modern era and of the past 25 years has, a moment captured on film that people have endlessly been trying to recreate. So it's there's definitely a lot to be said about that. And we'll just go ahead and get to it. 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. Aside from, the generational feat that this movie accomplished, it's still, it's one that a lot of critics adore. So what are they saying about it? What have they been saying about it?
Well, Alex, I went through a gazillion fresh tomatoes in the Rotten Tomatoes website to pull some quotes. There's a lot of people that like it. For example, Zazine Kohler from Black Girl Nerds says, "The Sixth Sense has most importantly been reminding us of how powerful children can be as forces of knowledge, awareness, and healing. If only adults would actually listen to them."
Okay.
Does she believe that children can actually talk to ghosts? Is that what she's saying?
Yeah, is she one of those people that like kids should raise themselves and not be disciplined, or adults shouldn't talk down to kids?
Yeah, and when they tell you that they see dead people, you should listen
Believe
to them. Yep. Paul Clinton from CNN.com says Willis turns in a measured and understated performance. That is code for Bruce Willis turns in a really boring performance.
Yeah.
Does he ever raise his voice in this movie? Does he ever say yippee-ki-yay?
Damn it. I need to jump in quicker. You've been like on a streak of stealing my lines. I was going to say not one yippee, kai, or a in the entire movie is said.
Yeah, there's nothing that he doesn't quip. He doesn't. It's just monotone. We'll talk about it, but I've learned that if Bruce Willis is whispering in a movie, you're in trouble. That's a red flag. It just means that he just took it for the paycheck. Gary Thompson from the Philadelphia Daily News says, one of the best child performances since Anna Paquin's turn in the piano.
Is that the one she won the Oscar for?
Yep. Rogue. Before she was an X-Men, she was, is she mute? No, Holly Hunter is mute in that movie. I think she's just
like 12 in that movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like was 12 IRL?
Yeah. Do you remember when she won the Oscar?
I oddly enough, I don't remember why, but I recently watched her acceptance speech from that.
Where she's just frozen. Everybody's like clapping and laughing and she just can't say anything.
Yeah, it's really cute. Infectious charm of a child.
Yeah. I would have liked to see Haley Joel Osment pull that kind of stuff, that kind of charisma at the Oscars if he had won, which he didn't because he's not as good as Anna Paquin.
Or he just like went up and
started screaming.
Who's had like a really curt and really like terse acceptance speech of the Oscars?
Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci famously went and was like, "It's my honor," and then he left.
Yeah. Yes. Haley Joel Osment just does that, or does like I can't remember what award show it was where Michael Jackson went up and like told Eddie Murphy to lower the microphone for him. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Haley Joel just looks at whoever's presenting. He's like, "What? You fucking expect me to get on a stool out here or what? Goddamn."
No, he would just like hold his Oscar, raise it, and go like, "For Bruce," and then walk away.
All right. Any more reviews?
That's it. Let's get to Contrarians Corner, because I cannot wait to complain about the fact that this movie didn't start with introducing Haley Joel Osment. What the hell?
Very cold credits. Very, we're so used to
the Marvel logo.
Well, I was about to say there's two types of opening credits that we're used to now. It is the opening credits that are the Marvel movies that have the little comic book gimmick, but then are like overlaid over stylized graphics and like waving flags and shit. Mm-hmm. And then the other one that we're really used to is pretty much the go-to for any type of romantic comedy or just comedies in general is the main or titular character waking up in the morning getting ready for their day as the credits like play across the screen. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep. That sounds like the trailer for Free Guy starring Ryan Reynolds. Coming to a theater near you next week, I think.
Any Ryan Reynolds movie starts with those opening credits, him getting ready to do something and doing his hair while, best friends or just friends at the bottom of the screen. So to watch a game changer like this and the opening credits are just white letters overlaid, fading in and out of a black background. It was kind of boring. Like I knew where this was going and I was like, let's get to it. But it did. It reminded me that it started a lifelong friendship and working relationship with Mr. Shyamalan and James Newton Howard. Is that his name? Mm-hmm. The composer. Because he he did the majority of music for Shyamalan to this. It doesn't look like he did Old, but I know every one of the movies we've discussed, he was on the score for it. I would love if they just have like a professional relationship, but just fucking hate each other personally. They just can't get along worth a shit.
James Howard just doesn't get it. It's like, I don't get it, man.
He's read the script for The Sixth Sense. He's like, really?
He's Ben Wyatt and Shyamalan is Lil Sebastian.
Perfect analogy. Right away, Bruce Willis looking good. I didn't remember how like hot he still was at this point. You think they would have used him like more to have some sort of sexual chemistry with Toni Collette, who's also, you have two banging hot white people in this movie, and at no point is there any sexual tension between them.
Well, Alex, not to go back too much into our extinction episode, but The Sixth Sense, it just suffers even a worse case of what the extinction suffered from, which is being handicapped by its twist. There's a lot of things that would be cool if they happen in this movie, but they can't happen because Shyamalan can't tip his hand because, he has to keep things mysterious until the last, 5 minutes of the movie. So I agree. Like, wouldn't it make sense for Bruce Willis and Toni Collette to hook up in this movie or come close to hooking up, to have the sexual tension that Tom Hanks and Gina Davis have in a League of Their Own? Yeah. It's said, like, she's a single mother. He's having trouble at home with his own wife. But you can't, and you don't understand why until the very end. That's a failing. It should make sense.
Julio, you have said this repeatedly since our Happening episode. You started there, and you've been saying it every episode, it seems, that we've been on going through the Shyamalan anthology, and that is that M. Night Shyamalan can't write dialogue for dick. And the opening exchange here, and Bruce's wife. I'm afraid I'm going to call him Bruce Willis the whole movie, so let's just go ahead and introduce the character here. Bruce Willis plays Malcolm Crowe, a child psychologist in Philadelphia. His wife, Anna Crowe, played by Olivia Williams.
Of Rushmore fame.
Rushmore, okay. I was going to say, what do we know her from? Okay, so what I was getting to here is Malcolm and Anna are just kind of hanging out and having some drinks in their living room because Malcolm, Bruce Willis, has been awarded an award from the mayor for his work with the community and, his work with these children and whatnot. That's cool. What's not cool is Olivia Williams' dialogue here. And no discredit to her. She's a talented actress in her own right. But she's basically saying that he is like Jesus come back to life. And that, she tells Bruce, give me your tired, your weak, your poor, your huddled masses.
I thought that you were referring to his whole... The first things that we hear out of Bruce Willis's mouth is just some sort of weird rhyme. He's trying to be funny. And she says, when you're drunk, you sound like Dr. Seuss. And then he keeps going. And I thought that that's what you were referring to, because on my notes, I have man, remember when we thought that Shyamalan was just being funny when he wrote this kind of dialogue? This was before we knew that, no, that's how he talks all the time. That's how his characters talk. It's not Bruce
that's
Willis.
What he thinks is good.
Exactly. This is a standard. This is not him cute in the opening of The Sixth Sense. This is how it's going to be forever.
Yeah. So they're celebrating, having a few drinks. They go up to their bedroom. They're going to consummate the evening the old country way. And they see that the house has been broken into. And as Wikipedia, as they always do, whoever contributes to these always has a way with words. A young man appears in their bathroom and discusses Malcolm failing him. Malcolm recognizes him as Vincent Gray, a former patient he treated as a child for hallucinations. Before he can talk Vincent down, Vincent shoots him and then himself. Vincent, as my notes read, it's Saw's Donnie Wahlberg, also of NKOTB fame.
Yep. I was surprised that, I don't know what surprised me the most or disappointed me the most, that Haley Joel Osment didn't get an introducing credit or that Donnie Wahlberg didn't get a reintroducing credit. It's either way, he makes such an impression.
I mean, yeah, we joked about it leading into this, but it had been so long since I've seen it that I had to reconfirm that it was Donnie Wahlberg, because he is unrecognizable, which I think is good. I don't know. He
but
went
he's
on
also
to
acting.
He is
really,
which if you've seen Saw, you know that he chooses when and how to turn that on. Donnie Wahlberg is an interesting cat, and I love the idea of the reintroducing, instead of the "and" credit, it's the "welcome back" credit. Welcome back, Donald Wahlberg.
It's intense. It almost feels too intense compared to the rest of the movie, because I told you Bruce Willis is on whispering mode, and so he is underplaying everything, and Donnie Wahlberg is just screaming and freaking out, and he's in his tidy whities. It's like two different movies happening at the same time, and then he's gone like so quickly that I think you made the joke maybe last episode at some point that Mark Wahlberg was just mad that Donnie Wahlberg was in the better Shyamalan movie. I don't know if that is the case, but I would say that Donnie Wahlberg makes as much of an impression, if not an even bigger impression, than Mark Wahlberg did in an entire movie, and Donnie Wahlberg just has like 5 minutes of screen time here.
Remember me and my little, I was going to say little boyfriends, but that when I was a little boy and my friends and I saw this movie, we, like, the line we always quoted from this was, we just thought it was funny the way Donnie Wahlberg said, I do. And so that was like a joke amongst my little crew of hellions when I was a wee lad. So that was always like seared into my brain. I agree. There's so much to like want to learn about this character, and Donnie Wahlberg is so good in like the 90 seconds he's on camera. So naturally he kills himself immediately. But not before he can get his jab, or I guess shot in on Malcolm Crowe. And Julio, if you haven't seen this movie yet, sorry, I have no sympathy for anyone that gets this movie spoiled for him anymore. And we're going to go ahead and cover this now, because once you've seen this movie and you know the twist, which is that Bruce Willis dies here and he's a ghost the rest of the movie, that is awesome and works really well the first time you see it. But when Julio and myself, even 20 years later, having not seen this in that long, you still know that. And then going back and rewatching it, it really changes the movie, and not for the better. Would you agree?
Yes, I'm glad that you are bringing this up, because I was wondering as I was taking notes, I'm like, all right, are we doing Contrarians Corner as if we were watching it for the first time and we don't know? or are we gonna, take it seriously? And we're like, honestly, you're right. I mean, once you know that Bruce Willis is dead, it changes the movie. It's a completely different movie, and it's not a better movie. In many ways, it's a worse movie because it stops making sense.
Yes.
I'm sure you had the exact same, or at least you must have had a similar experience to mine, which is that suddenly, because you know he's dead, all the tricks that Shyamalan is employing to distract you, to make you believe that he's alive, are more noticeable now because you know he's dead. And so now it's so obvious that, oh, wow, nobody talks to him. Nobody reacts to him. And the interactions he has with his wife, which on first watch kind of like, okay, you can buy them as being a strained couple, couple that's going through a rough patch. It doesn't hold up at all when you watch it, knowing that he's dead. You're like, oh, of course he's dead. Like that. The question is not why didn't we pick it up on the first watch, but more like, how is he not aware of it? How can he not realize that nobody's talking to him? It's not just his wife, but nobody. The world is not behaving as if he was alive, but conveniently, Bruce Willis never notices, and Shyamalan always cuts away before anything is revealed, anything that would have made it clear to the viewer and to him and to Bruce Willis. So, yes, TLDR, on rewatch, once you know the twist, this movie is just, it becomes almost a comedy.
Yes.
It doesn't work.
So we've got that out of the way.
Let's go to real talk.
The next day, a few days later, I don't know. The time
the next fall. It actually has
fall.
Yeah. It gets the 5 years later title.
Okay.
Except it's the next fall.
I was stuffing my face with torchies while watching this, so I must have been looking down during that. We get our main two characters. They finally meet as somewhere in West Philadelphia, born and raised. At the sanctuary is where Haley Joel Osment spent most of his days. Cole Sear is the little boy who Malcolm has been assigned to work with, or so we think. The veil is off, but we're going to try to recount this as best we can.
Okay, so well, we know he's dead, and we're talking about it like we know because we know. So the way that Shyamalan conveys this or tries to fool us into thinking that Malcolm somehow has a patient is that Bruce Willis has this notebook, and it has a lot of information about Cole. Right, it says Cole, age, and his symptoms, like a lot of stuff. So how did this happen? Who gave him that notebook? How did he make those notes? Because this is the first time that he is interacting with Cole, with Haley Joel Osment, right? Like, this is the first time that they talked ever. So where did he get this information about the kid? Because it's not like he's talked to Toni Collette or anybody, right? So did he just materialize with this notebook? Like in front of Haley Joel Osment's house? Like, is that like that's one of the biggest questions when you rewatch this movie? Is like, what is happening with Bruce Willis in between the scenes? Like when we don't see him, like, you know, the
what does he do
exactly? Like, does he just vanish and then reappear like in the next scene? So there's no travel involved, because you imagine the moment that he starts actually traveling from one place to the other, that's when he's gonna realize that, man, I'm a ghost. But that doesn't happen. And yeah, where did this notebook come from? Where did this knowledge of the kid come from? So was he summoned by Haley Joel Osment's subconscious? And that's, you know, I don't get it. I don't understand. And of course, the movie never answers those questions.
So he meets Cole, his new student, or the child that he's going to be trying to help take care of. He meets him at a church, as I mentioned, and explains the whole idea of sanctuary and where people would go to be safe. One thing I did take note of here is that Haley Joel Osment laid the foundation for the hipster glasses with no lenses in them.
Yes.
Which he only wears during this scene. Apparently they were his dad's, and, you know, he misses his father. Do we ever like definitively find out what happened to his dad?
No. And that's weird, because I had this memory that I thought that we did, that was one of the big moments in the movie, that he was going to reveal that something horrible had happened to his father. But no, I mean, apparently he just left one day. And because I thought, that's crazy how, you know, over the years you just add to the mythology without even thinking about it. Because in my mind I was like, oh yeah, he started manifesting his powers as a response of trauma because something horrible happened to his father. But no, apparently his dad just left, and he just has powers because he has powers.
Why not?
I mean, the movie has
also
to happen.
Potentially a kleptomaniac, because he stole one of the Jesus statues on his way out of the to the church, which was never circled back to again. My note here: holy shit, Toni Collette. Yeah. I had to take a drink to cool myself down here before we get into it. Toni Collette, the beacon of hope in this movie, both from just a Mamma Mia standpoint, but also an acting perspective. Introduced into the fray, she is the mother. She plays Lynn Sear, Haley Joel Osment's mom. And the first thing we see her is she's whipped up some it's the scene where she's whipped up the breakfast, and then she leaves the room for a second and comes back, and all the counter drawers and shelves are open. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Haley Joel Osment says, "I wanted Pop-Tarts." I think, did they say Pop-Tarts or cereal or something? And
yeah, she made him Cocoa Puffs, and he said he wants Pop-Tarts.
Classic Shyamalan humor.
Yeah, it's like this little kid just run around really quick and open all these just to fuck with his mom. What kind of sociopath are we dealing with here?
Is she doing an accent, Alex? Oh, okay, so I know she is, because she's Australian, so she's obviously not using her Australian accent, but is she doing a specific American accent that you could pick up on?
The Philadelphia accent is such a difficult one to try to quantify, and also even more difficult to nail down and mimic.
Don't make excuses for her. She's a grown woman. She knew what she was getting into.
For her. I was going to say she sounds like Jersey housewife in this, is what she sounds like. It sounds like it's a classic thing of, Tina Fey is the only person that I can think of that can do a really good Pennsylvania accent, and it's just one of those things I can't even explain it. There are other people that can, but she always comes to mind. There's just certain words with different enunciations, and Philadelphia is a different beast all its own. So it's a lose-lose proposition, and unfortunately Toni Collette lost. She's as hot as she is, but she just sounds like Jersey trash this whole movie. And it's not necessarily endearing to her character.
She's a long way from Little Miss Sunshine.
Yes, very long way. My next note here is just in all caps. It says, "It's so obvious." And again, when you go back and rewatch this, like the scene, I think one of the next scenes is her and Bruce Willis sitting in the living room of their apartment or their home or whatever, waiting for Haley Joel Osment to come back, and they're just sitting in silence. And I remember the first time I saw this, I thought like, they just didn't have anything to talk about or whatever. And I was just like, oh God, which is even more concerning that she's just sitting in stone silence waiting for her son to come home. She doesn't even have like Santana featuring Rob Thomas playing Smooth on the radio in her home. It's quickly becomes very apparent what's going on. And is this the scene where that leads into like the game that Bruce Willis and Haley Joel Osment play?
Yeah, and right before the game, this is Toni Collette kind of still showing that these were her early years in Hollywood before she had become the incredibly skilled actress that she is now. But she actually betrays the conceit of the movie here, and I was looking for it, so that's why I noticed. I understand that anybody watching it the first time wouldn't, and if you were taking a bite out of your Torchies at this second, you might have missed it, but she actually looks at Bruce Willis before she leaves the room.
Oh, she does?
Yeah, because she talks to Haley Joel Osment. They have like a bit of an interaction. Then she's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go cook dinner. Then she says, you have an hour. And that's her cue to leave. And when she says you have an hour, you think that she's talking to both of them, right? When you think that he's alive, before you know the twist, you're like, oh, she's telling Bruce Willis and Haley Joel Osment that they have an hour to talk, to have a session. But when you know that he's dead, then you're like, okay, she's just telling him that he has an hour. He's telling Haley Joel Osment that he has an hour to play or whatever. But then as she's walking out, right before she exits frame, she glances at Bruce Willis.
Wow. For
no reason, because nobody's supposed to be sitting there. Like Haley Joel Osment is on the other side of her, like he's still by the door. And I was like, man, that's crazy. They left it there. They could have cut before she turns, but Shyamalan left it there. I understand that he left it there because on first watch, it convinces you, it adds to the whole thing of like, oh, there's nothing weird here. She acknowledged Bruce Willis there, like, gave him a glance. But when you know that he's dead, you're like, what the fuck is she doing? What's she looking at? I mean, I guess, every now and then you randomly turn around and look at emptiness, the empty chair in your living room. But in the context of this movie, it just looks really weird. And I'm glad that you own it, because that means that after we're done recording, you can like check that scene again.
It's true. I did not catch that. So they do like a game where I don't know what the intention is. It sounds creepy. Bruce Willis is like, if I get a question about you right, you have to take a step towards me. And if I don't, you get to run away from me, kid. But it's just a back and forth. He's trying to learn more about the kid. Bruce knows that there's something, going on with this kid, and he wants to help him. And it's clear that what's the Johnny Wahlberg's name? Vincent. That's still weighing on him with his approach to, you can see in his face, he sees all these similarities between them and wants to make sure he does right here by Cole.
At what point in the movie, Alex, did you start to doubt Bruce Willis's abilities as a psychologist, as a child psychologist? Because the movie sells him to you like pretty strong in the beginning, right? He got an award from the mayor, and you think that he's hot shit. And then as the movie progresses and he's getting nowhere with Haley Joel Osment, you're like, why did he get an award? This is the best he can do? He does magic tricks, and he does this weird game with the chairs. We've seen much better depictions of psychologists on screen, and Bruce Willis is not one of them.
Yeah, to your point, I wasn't overly blown away by his performance here.
He's no Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting.
Absolutely not. And Haley Joel Osment's not making it easy for him either. But there's other things weighing on Malcolm's mind, and one of them is his strained marriage, where I guess he's late to the dinner that he has with his wife. And again, if this is your first time watching, I could see how you can maybe get swept up in the melodrama of this, but knowing what we know now, it's just like so obvious. It's like he goes and sees her, and he just thinks she's mad at him, and because she's just looking down and not talking to him. So he says his whole piece about, I'm sorry, and she like sighs and says happy anniversary and then gets up and leaves.
So when you know the twist, what did she do? Did she really said happy anniversary out loud? What the hell? She was sitting by herself at the table.
Yeah. So I guess she was just speaking into the ether and says happy anniversary. And he just is like, oh, I didn't mean to let you down, baby. I was...
He reaches for the check and she grabs it first.
Oh, dude, it's so bad.
What would have happened if he had reached earlier? You know what I mean? Like, would his hand go through the check? Would he?
And that's when he's like, wait, am I dead? An M. Night Shyamalan film. So, back at the Sear residence, we get just kind of this quick shot of Toni Collette cleaning up around the house. And she starts looking at all these pictures of Cole from his life up until this point, and all of them had this like little flicker lens flare. And somewhere a young McGee watched this and said, hold up a minute. That looks fancy. And it's all, atmosphere and mood building. We still don't know if you've seen the movie, you do, but going into this with virgin eyes, none of us know what this means. And we talked about in Science, Julio, the impressive approach and the successful approach that M. Night brings to building atmosphere in that movie. And that's a movie about aliens, and without it feeling overly hokey. And this feels like it's just something we're going to say over and over again. Once the toothpaste is out of the tube, you just stare at it like, oh, go fuck yourself. And just, you fold your arms, and then you start talking in a New Jersey accent like, fuck your mother. I know what you're doing here. Get the fuck out of here. Like this sequence, it's just like, let's just follow Toni Collette around the rest of the day. Let's just watch her and see what she does.
Oh, and she finds his creepy notes.
Yeah, with all like the shit that he's been told by ghosts and demons and shit.
Right. Yeah, my note says this movie cheats, and it cheats hard because, it intercuts with Bruce Willis kind of like telling him, hey, he's having a session with Cole, and he's saying, hey, do you know what? He starts telling him about what you do when you kind of start writing and lose yourself and just allow your brain, I guess, to control what you're writing, to take over, and then you look at it and you're like, man, I wrote these things that I didn't even know were inside me. And Shyamalan intercuts this with Toni Collette finding these notes and freaking out. And so the implication would be that, before you know what's really going on with Cole, the implication is that there's something really messed up inside of him. He was doing that thing that Bruce Willis told him about, and he wrote all this really disturbing shit on this piece of paper. That only works once. When you watch the movie again and you know that what's happening is that this kid is listening to ghosts talking to him, then the scene loses all its power because you know that he's not messed up inside. You know that he's just transcribing. He's a secretary. He's no longer a deeply disturbed kid.
And it's during this sequence that he tells Bruce that he has a secret, and Bruce tells him, I want to do anything I can to help you. He's like, I need you to tell me, what it is you want from me. If you could have one thing, anything in the world, what would it be? And he says, can it be something I don't want? He's like, sure. He's like, well, I don't want to be scared anymore. Got it. Bruce Willis goes back home, and his wife's not responding to him, and some guy comes over and is hitting on her. And I thought, man, like, he is really bad at picking up at what's going on. Like, even, I mean, if she hasn't spoken to him in days, and then the other guy comes over and is like hitting on her in his home while she knows he's home, he's doing a really poor job of picking up on this.
Oh man, I wish I could remember how I felt the first time I watched this movie. It's, to use a word you like, Alex, he's a total cuck in this movie. When you watch it without not knowing that he's dead, and you think that that's really him, just his wife is basically cheating on him in front of his face. He's like looking from the basement. He has this little window, and he watches the guy
that's like covered in cobwebs and shit. It's like no one's been down there at all recently.
He even tries to sound all like a badass because the wife turns the guy down in the end, and so the guy's walking out, and he has like some hesitation where he like looks back. He's like, maybe I should try again. And Bruce Willis is watching from the basement and goes like, yeah, you keep walking.
Calls him Dick Cheese.
Dick Cheese. Yeah. It looks pretty bad when you don't know that he's dead, because you're like, man, he really, his life went downhill fast. And when you know that he's dead, you're like, why wouldn't he go upstairs and confront his wife? Right? Mm-hmm. Like, sure, things are bad, but when you get to the point where some dude is knocking on your door to ask your wife out, that's when you figure that at that point you have to have a conversation. And
you would think,
yeah, he doesn't.
Hey, who is that guy?
Yeah, okay, so you don't want to fight. The least you can do is go up there and like, hey, who was that? You sure you don't want to go out with him? Go to the market? I don't mind.
Back at school, Cole continues to be somewhat of an outcast and is in class, I guess history class or something, and the teacher starts talking about the school they were in used to be courthouse where things happen, and Haley Joel contests it was a place they used to hang people. Lawyers hung them there, and then the teacher starts getting kind of aggressive towards him, and he kind of looks at him kind of condescendingly and judgmentally, and Haley Joel says, please stop doing that, and then he calls the teacher Stuttering Stanley, which apparently this is a nickname that was given to him in high school when he was younger, and obviously not one he likes because he starts freaking out about it, slams his hand down on the desk, calls Haley Joel Osment a freak. It's bad business.
This teacher, surprisingly, keeps his job because he shows up at the end of the movie. He's still directing the school play.
And it's all cool with him and Haley Joel again. So, but yeah, this causes a ruckus, obviously. Haley Joel gets sent to the principal's office or wherever the hell he is. Bruce Willis comes in and debuts a magic trick for him with a penny. It's, again, what you talked about, Shyamalan humor. It's just we didn't know at this point in time that this wasn't something to build like atmosphere. This is just something that, hey, wouldn't it be funny if I did this?
Yeah, we thought that this was just him writing Bruce Willis as a dork. And then as we watch more Shyamalan movies, we realize, oh no, Shyamalan is a dork. And he just finds this funny.
Julio, would you believe that Michael Cera auditioned for the role of Cole? And this was the scene he did in his audition. He later admitted he did it too cheerfully because he hadn't read the entire script, so he didn't know that the character was supposed to be like introverted. So somewhere there exists the tape of Michael Cera as a young one. Like, where'd the penny go?
Was he reading with Bruce Willis?
That it doesn't say that here. God, could only hope. Bruce just freaking out. Can we get a professional on set? The magic trick, Julio, you like it? No?
I mean, my reaction was Haley Joel Osment's reaction. Or like, it's in your fucking hand. You're not even trying. I mean, I know that that's the point, that Bruce Willis is not supposed to be blowing his mind, but it kind of like takes away some of the punch of it when later on Haley Joel Osment is trying to do the same thing. You're like, okay, so was he not impressed? Was he impressed? What the hell?
Yeah, are these guys like bonding? And then, the scene later where he does it is played for even more laughs. It's just kind of like, okay, whatever.
I think that if Shyamalan really wanted to commit to the bit, he should have had Toni Collette doing it at the end of the movie.
Well, after Haley Joel gives it a shake at one of his chum's birthday parties, it goes over poorly. He's told the trick is stupid, and the kid's like, I want my penny back. They're at this big house with like this fucking spiral staircase that leads to just like a dungeon room or like a closet that's upstairs. Haley Joel hears some, a clatter come from there, so he goes up there to check it out, and this shit that did not get his comeuppance nearly enough in the movie, the bully from the school, Tommy Tomasino, just a real dickhead, man. I was waiting for him to get like eaten by a ghost or something. But,
just to get pushed down the stairs.
There you go. So obviously there is something bad going on in that closet, and these bullies come and throw Haley Joel in there, and he is attacked while he's in there. He gets taken to the hospital. Did you catch who the doctor was here, Julio?
Oh my God. So over the past few episodes, whenever we were talking about the Shyamalan cameos, I would always say, like, I don't remember if he cameos in The Sixth Sense. I imagine he does, but it's probably something small. And I guess compared to something like Signs, yes, this is it's a smaller role. But I guess at the time, again, going back in 99, we didn't think anything of it. I imagine most of us watching The Sixth Sense for the first time, we didn't even know that was him. But now, with all the Shyamalan history behind us, it's just like, why? What are you doing? Why? He's not an actor. I mean, we've seen him do worse, but he could have thrown somebody else a bone at this part. Give somebody an opportunity to make an impression on this one scene. Did you laugh when you saw him? Did you remember that he was a doctor?
No, I just heard his voice. I was like, well, that's his voice. And then they showed him. I was like, oh, God, here we go. He doesn't have much of, anything to do, but he tells Toni Collette, hey, there's some cuts and bruises on your child that concern me.
And then she's just like, sports, that's from sports. I was like, don't you know your kid? That kid doesn't play sports.
Well, and then she also you think I hurt my child? You think I hurt my kid? And gets real defensive about it. I was kind of hoping for a throwdown between her and M. Night, like something just wild that I completely forgot from the movie. Not to be though, as it just kind of dissipates, but it does lead into Bruce Willis going to visit him in his hospital room, where obviously they can't determine what happened to him because he was attacked by a fucking ghost. And Bruce Willis goes up there, and it's the scene. We're probably about 60 to 70% through this movie. I always, in my mind, thought it came a little bit later, but then I remembered there's a lot of shit that comes in the fallout of that. So, Julio, it's the big one.
It is. It's the Oscar clip. It's someone's Oscar clip. I think it was Haley Joel Osment, but it might have been the best movie clip at the Oscars. Mm-hmm. Either way, it's just
screenplay.
Yeah, that too. Maybe. They played it like 3 times during the Oscars.
They played it a lot on TV for a while after this movie. Yeah.
Well, it was not to get too much to real talk, but this fucking scene was in the trailer. Like I see that people was in the trailer, which okay, thank you. You just ruined half the movie for me. But by what made me laugh really hard here, and it's just again because it's just so much harder to take the movie seriously once you know the twist. So. There's this massive buildup to Cole finally whispering his secret, and he goes like, I see that people, and then Bruce Willis replies, in your dreams? And it reminded me of Knocked Up when Katherine Heigl goes, I'm pregnant. And Seth Rogen goes, with emotion? It's just, here's the kind of the more interesting side of the story that is not explored. And that is that Haley Joel Osment has known that Bruce Willis is a ghost the entire time, right?
Yeah.
That's the first time that he sees him, he runs away from him. And
correct.
Everything he says kind of like, it kind of points to, he knows. But he is being very deliberate in the way that he talks to Bruce Willis so as to not address the fact that Bruce Willis is a ghost. It's like, Haley Joel Osment knows, this fucking kid knows that Bruce Willis is under the delusion of still being alive. And by now, Bruce Willis has told him about his wife. He's told him about the patient, about Donnie Wahlberg. He's opened up his heart. And Haley Joel Osment is kind of manipulating him in a way, which is crazy because he's a little kid. So going back to like the things that the twist won't allow you to do because, you have to preserve the mystery of the twist, the secret of the twist. It's like, isn't it a much more interesting movie if you have it all out in the open and it's a movie about this young kid that manipulates a ghost into doing his bidding and helping him? And then the big climax is Bruce Willis still realizing that he's dead, but now instead of being this sort of happy ending, it's him feeling betrayed and just looking at Haley Joel Osment going like, you knew all along and you didn't tell me. You let me think that my wife was cheating on me.
You led me astray.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it definitely, after this scene in particular, it definitely becomes Cole is shrinking Malcolm. Because there's one scene where it cuts back and he's like, it's almost like he's just like, and maybe that's why I hated my father. Like you just expect Bruce Willis to say something like that to Haley Joel Osment. But he tells him, yo, I see dead people and it freaks me out. They don't know they're dead. They just bother me, and I don't know why. It's so good, though, because fucking Bruce Willis is just like, you do? And he's like, in coffins? And they're like, no, walking around. And his face is just like, I need to get the fuck out of here. This kid's insane.
Pregnant with emotion.
God, what an all-time line that was. One of the greatest things Judd Apatow ever wrote. back at home, this is my note. Tony goes full Jersey housewife, where she calls the mother of the bullies is like, your son needs to keep his goddamn hands off my boy. This is like the dominoes are starting to fall, though. We see Cole's room, and he's built like a sanctuary for himself for protection. He's got all those like Jesus trinkets and I don't know, precious memories, etc. in there. And he has to get up to use the restroom. We learn now there's been a theme throughout the movie of like, there's like cold fronts that come in. It just gets frigid out of nowhere for no reason. And we see this happen here. Like Haley Joel can see his breath or some shit. No, we see the thermostat. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. It starts dropping. We get one ghost that's, yelling at Haley Joel about something. And later we get a boy that looks like he's from the 70s who shot himself in the head on accident. Or that is definitely the one thing I remember, that shot of the boy turning around and having like the back of his head gone. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, come with me. I know where my dad keeps his gun. So we're just getting more and more of it.
None of them are really threatening, though. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that they're scary because they look scary, but the way that Haley Joel Osment has been acting in the first half of the movie, because that's the big thing, right? Before he tells Bruce Willis that he sees dead people, before he tells us, the audience, we don't know. We've never seen what he's seeing. We're like, that's weird. He freaks out and he has these weird marks. But then once the secret is revealed and we actually are able to see what he sees, there's never anything that's threatening, and there's certainly nothing that hurts him. So where all the bruises coming from? You know what I mean? Like, nobody attacks him. And like, there's the kid that blew up his head. There's the mom that's like opening the cabinets looking for food, and then there's Misha Barton who just throws up.
Maybe that was like the thing that would have. There was these scene shot where Haley Joel Osment just got like the ever living shit beat out of him by these ghosts, and the MPAA is like, all right, this is the one that's going to get you an R rating, because this movie's fairly violent for a PG-13 movie. But yeah, that's release the Shyamalan cut.
Yes, please release the Haley Joel Osment cut, where he throws down with Misha Barton.
We get an intense standoff between Cole and his mother as she's asking about a brooch, I believe, that was taken. A bumblebee brooch. And she's like, I found it in your room. It's just this thing of like, when a kid's lying to you type thing. And she's just like, just tell me you took it. I won't be mad. And he's like, I didn't take it. Some things just move and you don't know why. And so
but
that's
he knows
that.
Why.
And then she's like, you've had enough roast beef, go to bed. And I was looking at his plate. I was like, man, that shit looks good. And like Toni Collette, the way she looks in this movie and like her character, just like how hardened she is, like clearly Italian, like I guarantee you she could make some incredible roast beef. So I was just like, Cole, just tell her you took the fucking thing. Go to town on that roast beef, man. What do I note here? Cole is now shrinking Malcolm. We talked about that. There's a lot more back and forth between them. This is where Bruce says,
I can't see you anymore.
Yes,
Cole.
yes. I was trying to remember exactly what he tells him. But yeah, he's like, you are out of your mind and I don't feel safe being around you. So I can't see you anymore. But we get like the emotional resonance of Haley Joel Osment sliding the penny that he gave him across the table. And it's like everything that we've come to know about M. Night Shyamalan, like seeing that, I just like cringed. I was like, oh, he thinks this is good.
This comes on the heels of maybe the worst scene in the movie, or at least one of the most obviously terrible scenes, which is where Bruce Willis's wife works. She works at a jewelry store, is that right? And there's this long shot. This was guest directed by Judd Apatow, where it's just like this shot of Bruce Willis's wife and this couple that is arguing about whether they want to buy this diamond ring or not, this engagement ring. Mm-hmm. And it goes on forever. And it's trying to be funny because the guy doesn't want to spend that much money. And she's like, and then she's doubting his commitment. And, Bruce Willis's wife is to the side, kind of like trying to convince him to buy it. And it goes on and on and on. And it has absolutely no bearing on anything else that's happening in this movie. And then when that's done, Bruce Willis's wife goes and starts kind of like cuddling with the guy that she works with, the guy that's been trying to ask her out. And they're about to kiss. And then the window breaks. And then you see that Bruce Willis is like walking away from the store, like kind of making you think that he saw them about to kiss. And instead of going in and confronting his wife, he just broke the window and walked away.
Yeah, you showed them, Bruce. After he gets his penny back, he has to go back home, and he's listening to these audio recordings of sessions he had with Vincent, Donnie Wahlberg, and this is where we find out that Donnie Wahlberg saw dead people too. I have in all caps, how did he miss that? Because he's just listening to this audio, and all he has to do is turn it up a few octaves, and then he hears some like man yelling in Spanish in the background, and then he's like, "Oh my God, what have I done?" I guess this is where he realizes it's the real thing. I don't know how he missed that. Maybe he just never went back and listened to the tapes again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe what the movie's maybe even accidentally telling us is that he was never that good of a doctor to begin with. Like I told you, it looked like he wasn't doing that great with Haley Joel Osment. Yeah. I think that he's just popular, and that doesn't equal good all the time. He's just friends with the mayor. But it's crazy because the movie now Bruce Willis's character goes from being skeptical and not really knowing what was going on to somehow becoming kind of like a paranormal expert, because he comes back to Haley Joel Osment and now he has a plan. And he's like, you know what? I figured it out. These people coming to you, they're coming to you because they want something from you. All you have to do to make them go away is do whatever they want you to do. And it's like, how does he know that? Has he talked to them? Has he looked back through all his years of non-experience doing this?
This segues into Misha Barton as she appears in Haley Joel's tent later that night, and she's obviously very sick and she throws up. Haley Joel's instinct, Cole just guns it, runs away, and he comes back and she says, "I'm feeling better now," and he tries to talk to her to figure out what it is that she wants or what he can do for her. And then we see them on a bus the next day going to what turns out to be a funeral for said puke girl, Misha Barton here. And Julio, he comes in as a man on a mission. And does he go back to her bedroom or something? He finds this chamber of secrets, so to speak. He finds this, hollowed out book that has a VHS in it and takes it to her dad.
So it's been a while since I've been to a wake, but you can't just walk in, right?
No. And let alone just a little kid by himself wander past to go to the bedroom of the deceased child.
Right. At some point, somebody would have noticed, who the fuck is that kid?
But he goes back there and he finds this tape and gives it to the dad, and the dad throws it on. And I forgot how morbid this was. This is fucked up. Well, one, it's obvious that the mother's guilty because she's wearing a red pantsuit at a funeral. I mean, that's sign number one. And then, we see on the videotape that this little girl would, tape herself doing puppet shows, and she left her camera on, and it caught her mom coming in to give her soup or cream of wheat or whatever. And the mom was putting Drano or some shit in her food, I guess keeping the girl sick, and eventually it killed her. And
but
this is
why?
how the dad finds out. I don't know.
Exactly.
Haley Joel said he's there to figure out why. He's just to figure out the end result.
Well, this is not going to hold up in court, Alex. We need more. We need a motive.
Yes. Yeah, the defense attorney's like, so this little boy just came into your house and all of a sudden was able to show you this.
It's just really weird that it's shitty storytelling. At this point, he doesn't care. Shyamalan, that is, because so you're grieving the loss of your daughter. Some random little kid shows up with a tape, and you just play it there in front of everybody. You don't know what the hell is that. You know what I mean? Even if it's just something innocent, and it's just some sort of personal, tearful goodbye. That doesn't seem like the kind of thing
Not
that you
for the world to see.
Exactly. That's you wait till everybody's gone, and it's just for you and the murderous mother to watch in the privacy of your bedroom or whatever. So it's just, but he has to wrap it up, and so he just doesn't care.
So he figured it out. He found out who done it. He vindicates Misha Barton. She did not die for nothing, because now her mom or stepmom or whoever that was will face the wrath of the American legal system. Haley Joel Osment gets to be the boy that pulls the sword out of the stone, the sword in the stone. The immediate thought is this school has a lot of plays, because it seems like over the course of a few weeks they've had 2 plays. I can't take credit for that. My sister watched this with me and she said that, and I was like, I'm going to write that down, because it was just, we were watching, it's like, God, the school does a lot of plays.
Do you think that he got that role, the main role, arguably, of the play because he bullied the stuttering teacher earlier in the movie?
I would hope so.
Because he tells him, he's like, thank you for giving me this part, Dr. or Mr. Cunningham or whatever.
And then this is the only comeuppance that Tommy Tomaselli gets. Tommy Tomasino. He's like the down idiot, and he has one line, and he's like obviously really bummed to be there.
When then Bruce Willis gives him his review. He's like, hey, Tommy Tomaselli, he sucked.
Yeah, that was great. And then it's like the goodbye scene, which I had never noticed until the writers of The Office aped 15 years later on Michael's last episode, because they leave it as like, we're not going to say goodbye. We're just going to, act like we're going to see each other tomorrow. But Haley Joel Cole is born anew. He's a happy kid, and he's figured out that, this thing that he's been given, he can do good things with. And so that's it. It seems as though, they both healed each other. They helped each other. He tells Bruce Willis, hey, I thought of a way you could talk to your wife. Talk to her when she's asleep. That way you can really connect with her.
This motherfucker, knowing that Bruce Willis is dead.
Sending him to the gallows. The best would be if they like showed him and he had his back to him and he's like, cracking up and trying not to like snicker while he's telling him. It's like, yeah, Mr. Crown, or Crow, Mr. Crow, just, tell her you love her when she's asleep. And to wrap up things with Cole, we get Toni Collette's Oscar scene. I think her literal Oscar scene. And where he tells his mom, hey, I see dead people. And she rightfully is like, all right, we'll address this right away. Let's start by upping your medication. But this leads to Cole explaining, Grandma comes to visit me sometimes, and he tells Toni Collette the story about a dance recital that only she would know. And, she said she wanted me to give you the answer to your question, and it's every day. And we learn that, she asks, do I make you proud? And, this is where we learn of why the bumblebee brooch is, moved all its way around the house. And easily the most powerful scene, which is saying something considering the next scene is like the coup de grace.
I mean, it is emotional, but it doesn't make sense because, like you said, I don't care how much you love your kid. I don't care how crazy life might have been the last few months or whatever.
I don't care that the Y2K, situation is slowly approaching.
Yeah. If your kid tells you that he can see dead people, that dead people talk to him, and that he's talking to his dead grandma and all that stuff, okay, you can pretend that you believe him, but really what you need to do is what you should have done at the beginning of the movie or even before the movie started, which is get a doctor. Like the entire movie, we're giving her a pass because we think that she's hired Bruce Willis. And you're like, okay, well, she did something, right? She has a professional working on the case. But now, once you know that Bruce Willis is dead, he's not really there, that means that she hasn't been doing anything to help Cole the entire movie. She's just kind of been writing it, waiting for things to get better. That is terrible parenting.
Go back to Malcolm Crow's house. He goes in to say goodnight to Anna and talk to her when she's asleep. He was dead the whole time, Julio.
Wouldn't you know it?
He was only seeing what he wanted to see and didn't know he was dead. And when he got shot, I was trying to put that together. That gun didn't look like much of a hand cannon or anything, but I don't know.
It kills him right away. He has maybe 30 seconds before just passing.
Yeah, I don't know if it perforated his liver or something. It went through his left side, so it's possible. But yeah, it's pretty anticlimactic. He's just like, I'm okay, and I'm dead.
Did you feel a little insulted by the way that Shyamalan just kind of kept spoon feeding us the explanation of the twist? So it's I think we all got it. Pretty quickly.
There's probably about 45 seconds to a minute of shots that just aren't necessary.
Yeah.
No, we get it. That slow reveal of fucking Bruce Willis trying to look at his back. He's like, oh.
Like a dog chasing his tail. trying to
Exactly.
and then he keeps cutting back to just previous shots of the movie, just replaying what Cole said at some point. I was like, the movie's not that long. We remember. He said that they got cold, so all he has to do is show us that Bruce Willis's wife, her breath, is you can see it. And then
showing like a flashback. It's like, yeah, that was 15 minutes ago in the movie.
yeah. Flashback to every time that Bruce Willis tried to open the door. It just, come on, man. It's not, you don't need to recap a whole season of TV. This was an hour, 50-minute movie.
But he realizes, that he is dead. And that that means there's something that he has left to do. And it's for him to tell his wife, I'm sorry that I might have mistreated you or ever made you feel like you were second in my life. But, I love you. And I think he says goodnight is the last thing he says. And then he floats away. Where he goes,
unbreakable.
Unbreakable. Anyway, Julio, we have done it. We have given The Sixth Sense the Contrarians treatment, and I am very interested to see how our respective viewings and opinions of it are going to hold up. Are you ready to move this conversation along to Real Talk?
Let's go to Real Talk.
God, I am so tired, Cole. I'm tired in my body. I'm tired in my mind. I'm tired in my heart. I need some help. I don't know if you noticed, but our little family isn't doing so good. I mean, I've been praying, but I must not be praying right. Looks like we're just gonna have to answer each other's prayers. If we can't talk to each other, we're not gonna make it. Now tell me, baby, I won't get mad, honey. Did you take the bumblebee pendant? No. You've had enough roast beef. You need to leave the table. Go!
What's up, Contrarians listeners? I had the pleasure of watching M. Night Shyamalan's Old recently, and in all honesty, I loved it. Well, the beginning and the middle I loved, but y'all know how M. Night typically tends to lose us towards his endings. It had the same mood as most modern horror films, especially to the liking of Ari Aster, with intense, anxiety-inducing violent scenes that will just keep you on the edge of your seat. I definitely would recommend checking it out for yourself.
And we are back. But before we go into Real Talk, let's take care of PP, our patron pitch. This is where we let patrons know what they can expect on our patron feed. And this is also where we let non-patrons know what they're missing out on. This time around, Alex, I mentioned last time that we have the quick video reviews up and running now. If you are a patron right now, you can check out the most recent ones, which are for Squid and the Whale from Contrarian's favorite, Noah Baumbach, and Striptease, starring Demi Moore.
What'd you think of that? I mean, obviously, they can head on over to Patreon to get your full thoughts, but just kind of, the one sentence review, where'd you fit on the side?
The one sentence review for Striptease is that it's better than Showgirls.
There you go.
So that's, that should give you enough, especially if you listen to our Showgirls episode, that should tell you something. So there's that, and this month we have our bonus episode is on natural selection, the long teased discussion between Alex and I about one of his favorite movies, and then if you're a certain kind of patron, you get to tell us what movies to watch. In this case, our next recording is a patron demand, and that is Hancock. More to come on that front.
Yeah, I'm thinking about revoking patron privileges after getting this request.
Additionally, you get access to all our clips that didn't make it into the official episodes, along with our pre-recording notes, and also our very special spin-off, Contrarians After Hours. This is the spin-off show where we tell you about other things that we've read, other things that we've watched, that we played. Sometimes they have something to do with our main topic on the show, and sometimes they don't. Alex, what are you bringing to Contrarians After Hours this time?
I mentioned on off air, I don't know if on, I've started binging the NBC original Superstore. Definitely with the rate I'm going, I'm just going to wait until I'm done with it to comment on that. So, are you familiar with I Think You Should Leave, the show on Netflix?
Yes. I don't know if you remember, but I am pretty sure that was a recommendation from 180 Straight during
It definitely was, and I
Green Book
forgot.
episode.
Yeah. And I'd forgotten that he had recommended it. I remember him talking about it, but I had forgotten it was that show until I was watching one particular segment of it, because obviously it's kind of a forgettable name for a TV show or a, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, just talk about that and my experience with binge watching that and the uniqueness of that like Tim and Eric style of comedy that exists, and you and I have talked about before. We'll try to shrink my feelings on my emotions and why I think you should leave so funny. So
I look forward to that. Speaking of shrinking your feelings and trying to gauge your reactions to stuff, just for funsies, I'm gonna do a quick segment during After Hours where I just tell you about all the newer developments on the MCU. I want to gauge how few fucks you give about everything that I'm going to tell you about. I'm going to list like 5 different projects that I've watched or that are coming out, and I want to see, like, on a scale of from I don't care to I really don't care. I want to see where they fall in your barometer. And then just kind of like do something different, because this past weekend I didn't really watch anything other than the things that I had to watch, but something that my wife and I fall back on whenever we're too tired to pay attention to anything else is just we have a few reality shows that we put on and just not do anything other than just chill on the couch while they happen. So I want to tell you a little bit about it, because I know that you watch some reality TV, and I know you're familiar with Gordon Ramsay, so curious to get your opinions on some of that. So we have reality TV in my household, plus Alex's lack of interest in the MCU, plus I Think You Should Leave, and why Alex finds it funny. A very quirky Contrarians After Hours awaits you.
Very all over the place.
So if any of that sounds interesting, go to patreon.com/Contrarian Prime, and then you can look at all our tiers and see if there's anything that catches your eye, see if you want to contribute and become part of the Contrarian supplements.
Do it, man. I always make food analogies and I'm running out of them. It's $1. Go over there, listen to us. You want to hear what we have to say. You could just cancel afterwards, but you want to give us that $1 and hear what we have to say about I Think You Should Leave, and what just dribble Julio is going to tell me about Marvel while I sit here and yeah, okay, cool, why not? Nah, I kid. We love and appreciate all our patrons. If you like what we do here and you want to hear more of it, or if you just want to support us, you guys know what to do. If you want to find some movie that you really want to put us through the ringer, be it like an all-time classic movie or like a Freddy Got Fingered style bad movie, you know how to do it. We'll keep doing what we're doing here. If you want that little extra, throw us some coin. You'll be able to check that out. But whatever the case, patrons, listeners, we appreciate you all.
Now for the main course, the real deal, the real talk,
real deal, Holyfield. Obviously nothing we say here is going to be breaking any ground. This is not going to be one of our episodes of more kind of niche, in the weeds type movies. This is obviously one of the bigger ones we've ever covered. So I don't think we're going to be saying things that necessarily have not been said anywhere before. So before we get to, what we're thinking about it here, because I don't even want to know what Julio's takeaway is before we get the formalities out of the way. Julio, 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. That does mean, obviously, and we know this movie is known to have haters worldwide for the past 22 years. So what are the official haters, the Rotten Bunch on Rotten Tomatoes, saying about it?
Official haters, people that just went on the record saying this movie is not good. James Berdinelli from Real Views says, I had to employ all of my usual tricks to keep from falling asleep. I'm very tempted to click on that review just to see if he actually lists the tricks. Does he pinch himself? To keep one of his hands like in a bowl of water, like cold water. Jeff Weiss from Deseret News, Salt Lake City, says, if there was ever a movie that could be accused of being both too subtle and too heavy-handed at the same time, it would be The Sixth Sense. I mean, I can see it. I don't know that it's a bad thing. Like, I guess I think it's subtle and it's heavy-handed. I don't know if it's too subtle and too heavy-handed. And then Ron Wells from Film Threat says, I would like to say that writer-director M. Night Shyamalan is a stunning new voice and talent working in Hollywood today. Unfortunately, that pronouncement will have to wait for at least one more film. How
What was
do
the
you
date
think?
on that?
Oh, I mean, that is from the day of, because he's saying
That would have had to have been like a release, yeah.
Mhm. So I wonder if Ron Wells liked Unbreakable. At what point did Ron Wells lose faith in Shyamalan? Is he still waiting to pronounce him a fresh new voice?
He just does that same review every time.
Same thing.
I would assume there's people that really like Unbreakable and not The Sixth Sense. I don't know. So, Julio, I guess just hit me with it. Did this movie hold up to how you had viewed it and your opinion of it?
Well, but see, I am not coming at it as in I didn't worship at the altar of The Sixth Sense. I didn't dislike it, but I know I mentioned it, I think maybe with Signs, that to me The Sixth Sense was just an okay movie with a great twist, with a great ending. That's how I thought about it. And having only seen it once, this is the first time that I've rewatched it, and like we talked about in Contrarians Corner, it is inescapable that once you know the twist, it's a different movie, it's a different experience. So even though I remember most of the plot points, it was still like the experience of watching the movie was very different. And I found it surprisingly rewarding. Like, it was not what I expected. I thought that it was going to be what we joked about in Contrarians Corner. I thought that knowing the twist would kind of suck the magic out of the movie.
Yeah.
But instead, I actually found that it enhanced it because it is so much more compelling, so much more emotional when you know that Cole is talking to a ghost, that Bruce Willis is a ghost. Even though Bruce Willis doesn't know, Cole knows and we know, and that makes their interaction very, it's a lot more poignant. Like, I understand why I felt that way after the first time I watched it, because like watching it right now, watching it tonight, as it was going and it got to the end, I'm like, man, before you get to the Bruce Willis reveal, this was cool, but it was almost like it could have been almost like an episode of TV show, like a well-produced episode of TV show, but it's not going to be particularly memorable, at least not for me. But then the twist is not just because the twist pulls the rug from under you and surprises you. It's like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But also because it makes everything else that happened better, at least in my opinion. So the twist actually makes it a great movie. It's not, so I was wrong. It's not an okay movie with a great twist. It's a great movie with a great twist. It's just that it was hard to appreciate it the first time around. At least in my experience, it has become a better movie on rewatch. How about you?
Obviously, it sounds like my opinion of it was a bit higher going into it. That article you and I tag team last year, whenever that was, about memorable movie theater experiences, memorable summer movie experiences.
Right.
I like clear as day remember going to see this for my buddy's birthday and just sitting there in the theater and just being like, whoa. So there's like this embedded nostalgia that's always going to be there that I really enjoy about it. But then I probably saw it again 2 or 3 times in the years that followed. I haven't seen this movie start to finish in at least 15 years. But anyway, like in my mind, it was still a really good movie. And so watching it tonight, you can't unsee that he's dead. So that's never... That's going to happen once. That's Luke, I am your father. You see that once, and your emotion to that happens one time. But much like The Empire Strikes Back, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't rewatch it and enjoy it and find things to take away from it. Yes, there are plot holes, and yes, a lot of the things that people make fun of this movie about are accurate and funny. But that doesn't mean that I don't think it's a really great movie. It doesn't mean that I don't think the performances are excellent, and then the beats that are hit aren't great. I think they are. And, there's plenty of movies that we've talked about. Halloween is my favorite movie ever. Yes, there's plot holes. And yes, there's things about it that like don't make sense and are very silly. And the things people make fun of about are mostly accurate. I don't care. I think it's awesome. And that's kind of where I'm at with The Sixth Sense. if you want to go through it with a comb and say, well, this doesn't make sense. We pointed out things that don't make sense in the movie. I don't care. I guess that's my point. M. Night Shyamalan, when he made this movie, wrote that, but that's not the shit he cared about. And when I see a movie like this that, okay, well, it doesn't care about these minor infractions, so I don't really need to either. But when I see what the movie does care about, which is the relationship with Cole and Malcolm, and just the idea of what's going on around Cole, and his like coping and accepting with it and using Malcolm and, in the end helping him, what the things this movie cares about, it does an incredible job with. So it's a movie that I kind of refuse to get hung up on the little, inaccuracies or nuances about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All how easy it is to criticize the logic behind Bruce Willis's situation, I guess. Shyamalan does do a pretty decent job at just kind of covering his ass once the reveal happens, because basically you have Cole saying that, well, they don't know that they're dead and they see what they want to see. So you can kind of, like we said in Extinction, right? Like you can, the robots program themselves to believe they're human. Therefore, they don't perceive all the things that make them not human. And same thing here. It's like Bruce Willis believes that he's still alive and his mind won't let him see anything that would prove otherwise. So he doesn't notice, in his mind, he fills in the gaps, I guess, with, I'm just losing time. I'm sorry. I'm always working. That's why I don't see my wife so often. I can buy it. I don't really, I know that we can get hung up on it. And that's kind of like what we're doing in Contrarians Corner. But yeah, I think that it's fine not to get started on the like, man, how far he has come or how far, he's fallen. But this is so well written compared to other things that Shyamalan's done later on. You know what I mean? Like, this is not just that he nailed all the emotional stuff and let that carry the movie. Like, I think that overall, like, the structure is well, like, it's so smart. I love the fact that we don't see the ghosts until Cole tells Bruce Willis. You know what I mean? Like, obviously it makes sense, right? But the fact that he designs the movie to where, like, the first half, you don't know what this kid is, or at least you're not supposed to know what this kid is going through. And then once he tells Bruce Willis, and it happens, I think, like dead in the middle. Now the movie changes, and now you see everything that he's seen. So you start seeing like all the ghosts, all the apparitions, and it's a different tone. That structure to me is great. But that reminds me, like, one of my biggest problems the first time I watched it, which was that I remember feeling bored during that first half because the trailer had already told me that this kid was seeing dead people. And so to me, I kept waiting for the reveal to happen. I was like, can we get to the part where he says, I see dead people, so that the movie can really start? And, that happens really late on. Did you have that experience? Do you remember, had you seen the trailer and did you know that that's what was going on with the kid?
Probably. I would have had to have known what this movie was going into it. Had seen the trailer, the TV spots or something. Obviously, I was too young to let that kind of thing really sway my judgment process the first time I saw it. And, I was still trying to cope and accept Phantom Menace at that point in time. Trying to make sense of that. So
we all were.
So no, if I had been the age I am now, or even if I was like 18 or 19, I probably would have been like exactly what you're explaining. That's how I would have felt going into it. That's kind of the thing that's interesting about the rewatch, because it almost feels like a game. Like when you rewatch, you're like trying to see all the, this is, there, this, that, trying to figure out the things you missed the first go around, which is obviously the hallmark of an incredibly written film, is going back and trying to, pick up on things you didn't catch the first go around. So to answer your question, no, that didn't weigh on me the first time I saw it. Much like the reveal, the second go around, it's like just kind of waiting for it to come. But it's not like dude made a good movie and then just bad movies. Like I understand how hyperbolic it is and it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. This movie like changed everything. And filmmakers have been striving since this movie to do something as impactful as the reveal at the end of this movie. And I feel like the general sentiment amongst the industry is that everything's been done. That's why we're relying on remakes, reboots, and just superhero movies and shit. So I could see almost the jaded folk or, younger people just not understanding like how big of a deal this movie was. It was like a historical event we lived through type thing. But you take that away and you just go to what you were saying. It's just baffling. To your point, I don't want to get yet to the discussion of, his devolution or whatever his career has been. But that scene with Haley Joel Osment and Toni Collette in the car, that is elite level shit. That is highest of the high, both from a writing perspective, an acting perspective, and even the way the shots are framed and the way it looks and everything. It's like, holy shit, this guy made The Happening, and he was able to craft this scene. That, and, even Bruce, he's, Bruce, late 90s Bruce is kind of doing his own thing a lot of the time. He hadn't yet settled into what we know him as now, you know what I mean?
Oh, no.
Just kind of, there was still effort here and there. This, it seems like he still was willing enough to seem vulnerable on screen, which is like a huge thing. And that final scene with him is great. His just physical acting, his body language, and his facial reactions to like listening to the tape of Vincent and, turning it up and hearing the ghost in the background, that type of thing. I guess the easiest way I could surmise what I'm trying to get across here is I couldn't believe how much I still liked it. I couldn't believe like how high of an opinion I have of it walking away from it here. It's certainly the one to end on because it made me rethink everything, we've been doing for the past 2 months in relation to M. Night Shyamalan. And
it was the twist at the end of the Shyamalantology.
I think we had a similar experience in that it was almost surprising at how much this holds up and how good it is, despite the fact that a lot of its legacy seems to be that this movie only hinges on the reveal at the end.
Yeah, that is a misconception. I think I imagine that many people saying that are people like me, people that saw it once and didn't come back. I find it hard to believe that you would watch The Sixth Sense a second time and not fully appreciate how much richer it is as a story when you know that Bruce Willis is dead. There is so much more. I just found every scene between him and Haley Joel Osment just carried so much more sadness because it's this kid, and on top of everything, like the one person that he can talk to is somebody that's dead, and Bruce Willis doesn't even know it. Haley Joel Osment is kind of like coaching him through it because, it's like we said in Contrarians Corner, he doesn't tell him. He knows that he's dead, but he doesn't tell him. So the dance that they have is so complex, and it can only be appreciated after you've seen the movie once. Now, I've always said a movie shouldn't require... it's great that when you watch a movie a second time, a third time, or whatever, and it gives you new things, and it becomes a better experience or whatever. But I've never subscribed to the idea that kind of thing excuses making a movie that is not a great experience the first time around, right? Like, to me, if your movie's not good enough the first time around, I'm not going to come back for a second or third or fourth. And The Sixth Sense is good enough that first time around because that ending is so memorable. And still, I just was not prepared for how much better it was going to be the second time around. It's crazy. I don't know if you've heard of this or if, it came up while you were reading about the movie, but the fact that he didn't, like Shyamalan, did not come up with the idea of Bruce Willis being dead until he was on the 8th draft, I think. So,
wow.
I know that's, to me, the idea that he was writing a much more straightforward movie, where it's just like, it's a kid that can see that people and this psychologist is helping him. So he was writing the movie that it seems like we're watching, until you get to the twist. And then at some point he realized, oh, what would be great? If Bruce Willis was dead also. And that's the moment where he changed history, where he kept rewriting until he got to something that was truly special. I will, go back to that. If you take the twist away, then this movie it's just a horror movie. Do you disagree with that?
No. One of the things I did find, Julio, kind of falls in line with that. Toni Collette had said she was so moved by the emotional resonance of the story while filming, she didn't even realize it was a horror film until after it was released. So it is not on my horror shelf. So I would agree with you on that. I do not classify this as a horror movie. There are jump scares. There are elements of it that are definitely frightening, but I view this as more of like a like a fictional drama type thing. And because of the ending there, because that completely changes the entire movie. And that's something I did not appreciate, maybe even until this viewing. Just the whole idea, because Cole knows he's dead the whole time, right? He knows that Bruce Willis is dead.
Yeah, I don't think there's a question of that. Like,
okay.
Yeah. Because he runs. That's one of the things I loved, like that, obviously I didn't catch the first time, and that is that he's running away from Bruce Willis at the very beginning of the movie because he's afraid of him. Not because he's a kid that doesn't want to, have a sit down with the doctor. It's just because another one of these fuckers. And he runs and he hides in the church.
I see. Okay. But yeah, to the whole point of it, it changes the whole movie and it makes it so much better. And to your point, you're exactly right. If the movie had just ended, I don't know how it would have ended if Bruce Willis wasn't dead, but it changes it from being just kind of like one of those 13 Ghosts, Queen of the Damned, one of those really like just kind of cheesy late 90s horror movies that was released, to being The Sixth Sense. And, we had mentioned there towards the end of Contrarians Corner, Haley Joel Osment had an interesting run of it. I do not at all question that he should have received a, Best Supporting Actor Academy Award nomination for this. He's so fucking good in it.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, M. Night Shyamalan was nominated for Best Original Screenplay, as well as Best Picture and Best Director. Toni Collette was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and the movie was also nominated for Best Film Editing. It won none of them. That's when Shyamalan said, "I'll show you."
And they left Bruce out in the cold. I'm like, no, man, you've done better.
Bruce was good, but let's, we can pump the brakes on that. Best Supporting Actor went to Michael Caine for The Cider House Rules. Best Supporting Actress, of course, in 2000 went to Angelina Jolie for Girl Interrupted. And then the 1-2 combination of Best Picture and Best Director both fell with Mr. Sam Mendes for American
Beauty. Tom Cruise was also nominated for Best Supporting Actor. That was the one I was rooting for.
Man, that was a loaded Michael Caine, Tom Cruise, Michael Clark Duncan, Jude Law, and then little Haley Joel Osment. All
great movies too. That's The Green Mile and Talented Mr. Ripley, right?
You got it.
Star-studded, all-star team. I really like Haley Joel Osment. I like them a lot more now than the first time I watched the movie. Again, it's just the kind of things that we build up in our heads as years go by, and you just remember certain aspects of the movie. So to me, whenever I thought of his performance in The Sixth Sense, I just thought of this little kid whispering all the time, and that is not accurate at all. He has, he does a fair share of whispering. It's well delivered, but there's also a lot more to his character. Like Bruce Willis, his whole thing is Bruce Willis is almost monotone here, and that's fine because that's what he's going for. But Haley Joel Osment has a lot more variety in what he does with his voice and with his behavior. And I'd forgotten that there are a couple moments where he's actually playful, most notably when he's trying to recreate the magic trick. Like I completely forgotten about that because that's just so lighthearted, compared to just how torture he is most of the movie. And then in, I guess, the previous scene where he tells Bruce Willis something like, I didn't think that you were funny, or I didn't think you were the funny kind of person, or whatever. It's just, that made me laugh out loud when he called him out on that, because he's just so dead serious. I guess you said that was the audition scene for Michael Cera. So
yeah,
Cera didn't nail it, but Haley Joel Osment did. So he's great.
They complement each other so well with their performances.
Mm-hmm. It's, I don't know how old was Haley Joel Osment, but he is so good at selling the scares too, that, and I don't think I'd appreciated that enough the first time I watched the movie, just how he looks like a little kid that's terrified. Child actors are hit or miss, and with him it was clear that they got somebody that could do all the things. So that was great. Now, Toni Collette, I remember thinking that her nomination way back then, I was like, really? The mom from The Sixth Sense? Like, I didn't really get it, because all the good stuff that comes with her performance, I think I was too young to appreciate the first time.
Yeah.
And I told you, whenever we brought up The Sixth Sense in the Shyamalan anthology, I knew that one of the things I was most excited about in this revisit was seeing Toni Collette's performance, because over the years, I've grown to really like her as an actress. And I'm sure that she brought something to The Sixth Sense that just went over my head back in the 90s. And that is 100% true. I mean, this is also part of the screenplay, obviously, but I just like how it's not just that she's strong, but that she is strongly on her son's side. And so when you get to that end scene where he drops the bomb on her, that he sees that he can see that he's been talking to the grandma, like, I buy that she believes him, that she takes a moment to kind of regroup and tell him, okay, we're going to figure this out, and gives him the chance to provide, somewhat proof of what he's saying. If her performance hadn't tracked throughout the movie, hadn't set the foundation for that big ending,
it would have been just like we were saying, like, this is so unbelievable that she could believe this. Yeah.
Why didn't she take him to a doctor right away? But instead you buy it. You're like, yeah, she loves her kid. She's been trying to figure out what's wrong with him, what's going on, why won't he talk to him? And now he's telling her, and she makes a decision to believe him. And then that ends with the whole story about the grandmother. So she's so good. And I don't mind the accent. I don't know what she's going for. I've never heard her speak with that accent. And I dig it for the character. When it comes to accents, it has to be something really like outlandish for me to like point out and say like, oh, this is taking me out of the movie. It was more of a novelty. I don't know. How did you feel about her accent? Because we kind of joked about it a lot in Contrarians Corner. Yeah,
but they're in Philadelphia. It's very logical that if she, her character grew up in Jersey or New York City or something and got transplanted and ended up in Philadelphia along the way. Or like I said, Philadelphians have a very unique way of talking and an accent. And at no point was it anywhere near something that took me out of the movie. All it did was it made me think her character was tougher than all the other moms that they introduced just because she had that city accent going for her.
Yeah. She's so good, man.
She's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm like, oh yeah, 100% give her that nomination. It was very well deserved. I don't remember what else was going up against, Shyamalan in the screenplay department, but I am glad that they acknowledged it too. They're like, man, that's a hell of a, I guess we all think of it as a debut, but it wasn't really his debut. He'd been building up to it for a little while.
Yeah, that's like the Ramones kind of got their big push with like Rocket to Russia, which was like their third album.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's that type of thing of, what was Metallica? Master of Puppets, I think, was like their first big breakout, and then And Justice for All, those were their third and fourth albums. So I can think of other analogies that aren't rock bands with white guys in it, but that's all that's coming to mind right now.
Hey, Aerosmith, I think their first one was, their first big hit was Toys in the Attic, but before that, they had Get Your Wings, and before that, they had Aerosmith, the self-titled Aerosmith. There you go,
well,
Alex. I can play your game.
They all can't be Appetite for Destruction, which was Guns N' Roses' first album. And they're not all going to be that. But just kind of finishing up with Toni Collette there, one of the aspects of the movie that I would say her and Haley Joel and Bruce are the three leads. You have Bruce's wife in this as well, Olivia Williams, who's fine for what her role calls for, but it's something good to say about when those characters are on screen, they all command attention and they all have a presence about them. Toni Collette is like the perfect cooler, so to speak, in this, because it's usually these scenes that build the real tension are between Haley Joel Osment and Bruce Willis, and then you'll have tension, like that whole dinner scene about the brooch with Toni Collette and Haley Joel Osment, but then it kind of resolves itself at the end with the embrace. And obviously, I think this go around, my favorite scene was that one in the car with them at the end. You had mentioned the scenes with Haley Joel Osment and Bruce Willis, and just like the way Haley Joel plays them all. I never really caught and never had got as much enjoyment as I did this go around from their last scene together, where it's like the only scene in the movie where Haley Joel Osment's like happy because he's like found his purpose with this affliction that he has, and he's gonna carry on with it and do good with it, which is great. Donnie Wahlberg is almost unrecognizable in this. And for a guy that I've spent a lot of my life mocking as just a person, not as like a human being, but like as an actor. And he has some lines that are just so bad in Saw 2 that me and my old roommate Shutdown Brown, they were like part of our everyday vernacular. Like we would just say them to each other, like in passing, or when we would jokingly get mad at one another, there was a line he has in one of the Saw movies where his son's like, well, then I'm just going to go to mom's house or something like that. And Donnie Wahlberg, like, acting, he's like, then go, and like yells at him. We used to say that shit all the time, just about, hey, I'm going to go to Taco Bell, then go, that type of thing. So seeing him in something like this is a very minor part, but it is incredibly memorable. And he's very good in it. And he's obviously very tormented. And it's very sad. It's very believable. I'm happy to say this will probably replace my Donnie Wahlberg, like my go-to. Like your brain, your schema, how you have like the Wikipedia thumbnail for whenever you think of something. That would be Donnie Wahlberg. Up until this point, it was Saw. And he was like a ring announcer at WrestleMania 10. And when he was walking down to the ring, Vince McMahon goes, yeah, NKOTB. So that's obviously something I always think of when Donnie Wahlberg comes up.
Now that we're in real talk, how do you feel about him popping up as a doctor?
That is, I would use the word inconsequential. That part could have been anybody. Yep. You or I could have done that. And so it's not something that I have too much of an umbrage with. I like it. In our Signs episode, I really meant what I said about how eye-rolling his reveal was in that, and I still love that movie. Mm-hmm. So if that's not enough to dissuade me from that, him in this certainly is not going to affect my thought process. It's a very small role. I'm glad that he doesn't have more of a back and forth with Toni Collette, because then it could have potentially fallen apart, because she's obviously in a completely different galaxy of him in acting ability. So...
But I kind of want to see Toni Collette just demolish him and, deleted scenes.
They just start riffing and then end up getting just really pissed off at each other.
Yeah, it didn't bother me either. I laughed because I'd forgotten that, he was going to show up as a doctor. That just made me laugh. So we're in agreement that the cast is great. We like the script. Mm-hmm. I think that we both fall on the side of this is as good, if not even better, than the hype leads you to believe.
Yes.
But I guess inevitably we have to look at everything that's come since and where we are now.
And before we do that, I need to make sure, I was so excited about this, I just jumped right in, my customaries.
Oh, yeah.
This was released on August 6th of 1999 and took the world by storm. Had a budget of $40 million, with a box office return of over $670 million. Did okay for itself. I'm not going to go down the whole list of things it was nominated for, but outside of the Academy Awards, it cleaned up and was nominated for a ton of shit elsewhere. So that covers that. And yes, it brings us to the inevitable conclusion of the Shyamalan anthology, in which we get, as Jerry Springer would say, and now my final thought. What happened?
What happened?
It's
Alex?
the perfect one to end on, because both of us, it's better than we remembered it. But for things that are like, it's not just that the twist works so well, and it's not just the acting is great. It's like, this is a well-written movie. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple of lines of dialogue in it that was like, yeah, there's Shyamalan poking in, but what we knew him as, what we knew him as to come, man, what did happen? Because it's, so Signs is very good. We both agree on that. Signs is not as good as this. Do we agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. So even then, we found Signs as like the reprieve, okay, he kind of had maybe a misstep, but then he's back with Signs.
Oh, well, I mean, that's on your end, because I love Unbreakable. So to me,
Unbreakable is a weird entry because, and I'm not discrediting it. This is me taking like my personal, like kind of whatever feelings about it aside. There is a very large contingent of people like yourself and Eddie and people who love Unbreakable, but for whatever reason that it doesn't get the same type of notoriety that Signs or The Sixth Sense does in a weird way. It seems like it's not as universally embraced. It seems, and it's also like this movie that people that use Sixth Sense was his only good movie as cannon fodder. They kind of seem dismissive of Unbreakable, but not in a way that it's bad. They're just like, yeah, it's okay. I've always found the discussion about that movie to be interesting because it's the one Shyamalan movie that no one thinks is bad, but also has this like huge amount of love for it, but people don't really celebrate it as a Shyamalan movie. They don't talk about that movie the same way they do The Sixth Sense or even like his bad movies. It's just very strange. That could be solely my experience with talking to people about it.
I think that we've run in different circles when it comes to that, because what you're describing is my experience with Signs. Like for me, Signs is a movie that people are just like, it's not great. Like the people that love it, and the people that don't love it are just like, okay, well, it's not one of Shyamalan's best. But that's how you feel about Unbreakable. That's how that's how you perceive Unbreakable, which is really funny because in my mind, Unbreakable is, I don't know, I think it has like a more passionate base on both ends, right? The people that truly hate Unbreakable and the people that really love Unbreakable.
So remind me of this because we're here. We're just going to take it here. There's not a big twist in Unbreakable, is there?
There is 2 big reveals, but the twist is obviously nothing compared to the twist in The Sixth Sense. In the same way that the twist, in Science is also nothing. I mean, I don't think any Shyamalan twists have ever lived up to what The Sixth Sense, set up as the standard. What it has going for itself is that it's kind of a very unique superhero movie, and especially at a time when superhero movies still hadn't taken over the world, so it was very unique. Like for him to have that as a follow up to The Sixth Sense was just very like, oh man, he really is a very special filmmaker. He has his own voice, right? He did his ghost story movie, then he did his superhero movie, then he did his alien movie. You're like, man, this guy, what is he gonna come up with next? So to me, like his first stumble was really The Village. Like I think that's kind of, most people would agree with that.
So when we did Signs, we talked about Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs. Unbreakable and Signs didn't critically or from a fanfare perspective, despite both obviously having passionate fan bases, live up to The Sixth Sense, but it was still the notion that he was going to be a player in the game for years to come, and like a very influential one. And then it just, we had Lady in the Water, The Happening, Last Airbender, After Earth. Man, I don't know if Uwe Boll had a series of movies that bad. You see things in The Sixth Sense that would become, and I'm not just talking about him being in the movie, the scene in the jewelry shop about the ring.
Yep.
Some of the dialogue that Olivia Williams has in, talking about and praising her husband. There are these flashes that, because everything else in this movie fucking rules, they don't really stand out. These would become things that would be standard for M. Night Shyamalan movies moving forward, which, you see directors' traits amplify as time goes on. That doesn't explain how, these movies, these premises, and these scripts just incrementally got worse and worse and worse. Do you think he was a guy that had a couple of ideas and then they did so well that he just had to
keep going,
just like faking it? Like, it's like, his next movie is gonna be like, and then a turtle comes and he becomes president. That would be the joke of like, pulling a Homer, that episode where he accidentally saves the town of Springfield from like a nuclear explosion, and then everyone keeps expecting him to do something good, and everyone just learns he's like actually really dumb and doesn't know what he's doing. Obviously not saying Shyamalan's dumb, but you know what I mean? Like, do you think he just had a few ideas and then ran out of fuel, or do you think it's a matter of him buying his own hype? Obviously this guy is doing well for himself, and he's doing better than me and Julio are doing in life. So God bless him. But it's just, this is something you have to talk about anytime he comes up, because it's not a matter of, it's not Star Wars. It's not, subjective in the sense of I prefer this one over this one, or I think this one sucks, knowing all the while that people love it. He made this movie and then went on in the past years to become like a punchline in the sense of people still go see his movies, but universally reviled movies one after another have come out by him. So Julio, I'm all ears. Hit me with what you think the reasoning is for this.
Well, I mean, there's no way of knowing, but here's what seems to me like the scariest option, the scariest possibility, which is that, can you imagine being M. Night Shyamalan and making The Sixth Sense, making Unbreakable, making Signs, even making The Village, and then slowly Late in the Water, The Happening, Last Airbender, is slowly kind of like losing your way and not being able to find your way back. That has to be terrifying, like,
yeah,
to not even know how it went wrong. You're like, hey, I set out to tell a story. Every time I sit down, I write a script, and then I shoot it the best way I know. And for some reason, the first 3 times, they were massive hits. And then at some point, it just stopped working. And I don't know what else to do. Like that has to be scarier than anything that's happened in any of these movies. It could also be a refusal to keep doing the same thing. He's like, I could keep making movies that are like The Sixth Sense, like Signs, like Unbreakable, I guess stuff that's a little more traditional, but instead I want to go into like offshoots and I watched The Visit, which is one of his somewhat recent movies, and it's an okay horror movie. It's not anywhere near as good as or complex or even
is that the one with Catherine Hahn?
Yeah, but she's barely in it. It's mostly 2 kids.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of like found footage. It's like M. Night Shyamalan's found footage movie, and it's not as bad as that sounds, but it's not great. But it's him, like, I would say, him trying something new. I guess he's like, well, what is an M. Night Shyamalan movie that is the found footage movie? And it turns out that, at least in my opinion, it wasn't anything memorable. And then he chose to continue the story of Unbreakable, and, he made Split, then he made Glass, and it felt like he was doing that movie in a way as a response to the way that superhero movies are being done today. And it still feels like maybe that's one of the things that led to his movies changing, is just that he decided that he wanted to do new things. And that's good. Like, as an artist, everybody wants to try new things, but maybe that's just not something that he's good at. I wonder how his process might have changed from those early years to how he makes movies now. And I mean, I know I mentioned this when we talked about it, some movie, the idea that, with bands and how like their first album is always something they've been working on for years. And then usually the albums that follow, they're albums that were produced in, much shorter spans of time. And therefore they sometimes lack the impact and the complexity of that first album, and you can apply it to a filmmaker's first movie. And yeah, granted, The Sixth Sense was not Shyamalan's first movie, but it was something clearly that was so far beyond what he had done up till that moment. And so maybe it was that idea that had been in the back of his head for like a long time. And same thing for Unbreakable. If he's a superhero fan, he likes comics, maybe that's something that he'd been thinking about for a while. And it's like, what happens when you like are done with those movies that had been percolating in your head for decades, and now you're like, well, now I have to do one almost from scratch, and that's where you come out with like Late in the Water. You come up with Late in the Water, or you come up with, The Happening. I don't know how much you've seen of him behind the scenes or like his interviews and whatever, but he is very almost like old-fashioned when he talks about storytelling and the movie business and all that stuff. He's one of those guys that's you would like him, Alex, because he's all about watching things in theaters and film and all that stuff. But
yeah.
I haven't gone looking for sort of like a tell-all Shyamalan interview where he breaks down his career and answers the question that we're posing here. He's like, this is where it went wrong, and I'm gonna tell you why. This is where I started doing drugs. That's where my career just went down in flames. I haven't gone looking for it, but if nothing else, it doesn't feel like he strikes me as a guy that's just kind of like pretty proud of his entire body of work. And so that could be also something. If you don't acknowledge that some things are not working, then you don't feel the need to fix them. So if he thinks that The Happening and The Last Airbender, and After Earth are good movies that just didn't get a fair shake from the audience and from critics, then of course
there's no reasoning with this man.
Exactly. Well, yeah, it's like, well, why would he change anything he's doing, right? I know he did a television show a while ago. What's it called? Wayward Pines or something. Like I remember seeing him tweet about it, and I was curious, but not curious enough to check it out. But I wonder if that is, if when you watch it, it's very much a Shyamalan production, and it just feels like, a collection of the things that we've grown to love and hate about him, or if it's something completely new, if he just adapted to TV in a different way. I don't know. I mean, at this point, Alex, how excited are you to watch Old, if you're excited at all?
Not.
Even though you know that it could be another Sixth Sense. Well, I guess not anymore, because we've seen that the reception has been pretty divided. But you stopped caring about Shyamalan a while ago, like as far as like going to see one of his movies, like it was a must-see event.
After The Happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. A lot of the things you were discussing, because of course I can always make it a parallel to wrestling. Listening to you describe, his career and some of the factors of it, getting in his own head about what worked and what didn't, but still finding success. There's this wrestler named Kenny Omega who in 2017 had this really famous match at Wrestle Kingdom, which is this big Japanese event that happens in the Tokyo Dome. Anyway, still, to this day, one of the greatest matches I have ever seen. It was unbelievable. It was everything that wrestling can be, and it's everything that I put up with for how dumb wrestling is and the embarrassment that comes along with being a fan of it. The matches like that happen are why you hang on to it and are things that make you proud to be a wrestling fan. And ever since then, he has not been able to find that again or recapture that. There's people that still really enjoy what he does, and he obviously really enjoys what he does. But for me personally, it's a perfect parallel, because he had this match that like set the world on fire, and then ever since then, it just seems like is very set in his ways and not particularly interested in, outside criticism, and just wants to keep doing shit the exact same way that he wants to keep doing it. And that could come from the things that you were just saying about Shyamalan. And that's what was really I was finding interesting about what we were talking about there. It could be, and I'm talking about Shyamalan again now. Kenny Omega, you're done. Go away. Uncertainty. That I had never thought about that, what you said about, like, I'm here now. What the fuck do I do? How do I keep doing this over and over again? Or just, brother knows what he wants to make and doesn't really give a shit what other people think, which to a certain degree is respectable. Because we're 22 years after this, and he's still getting, projects funded and being given high amounts of money. The budget on Old was $18 million, which is a lot of money. And he's still, being given free reign to do what he wants to do because he's still M. Night Shyamalan. And to some people, that name's a punchline. Some people, there will be eternal contrarians that act like everything he makes is great, but his name still packs a punch. He's still M. Night Shyamalan because, as we said at the onset of this, from now until the end of time, he will always be the guy that made The Sixth Sense. And it has been proven that if you make something that good, you're granted unlimited retries.
He has the unlimited continuous code. From here till the end of time.
Yeah, he typed in the Contra code at the opening credits of Sixth Sense. I said Guns N' Roses earlier. You know how many shitty songs Axl Rose has written? But fucker sang Welcome to the Jungle, so Let him keep doing whatever he wants. It's fascinating.
But it doesn't happen to everybody, because just recently we were talking about Rob Zombie, and you're like, okay, well, Rob Zombie is always going to be the guy that did Devil's Rejects, right? But that doesn't mean that you, and I'm talking about just you specifically, but that you're going to put up with a whole lot of his shit.
De Palma, dude. De Palma's another example. And I mean from like a perspective of not even like fans, but like after Black Dahlia, American studios were like, we're not giving this guy money anymore, man. We can't do it. Shyamalan's got the tricks though. But yeah, I want to clarify in case Julio confused any first-time listeners with that. I do not think Rob Zombie is a filmmaker on par with M. Night Shyamalan, and I do not think that Devil's Rejects is a movie on par with The Sixth Sense. I just want to make sure that's out there.
It was the first one that came to mind because we were talking about him recently.
This isn't even something that we can end on a what's next, because we know what's next. Until he wants to stop, until he wants to just chill with all his money and his family, he'll just keep making his movies every once in a while.
But what happens if he hits it big again? Like he manages to come up with another Sixth Sense, right? Like he makes a movie that is just as good, and then you have the headlines which are like, he's back, baby, and then Shyamalan's gotta be like, I never left.
It's one of those things like you can't even really call it a tale of redemption, sadly, because he still made huge amounts of money that entire time. It's not like he, made The Sixth Sense and then The Happening happened and then he got addicted to smack and, was caught with a bunch of hookers and stuff. It wouldn't even be a tale of redemption, but I'm trying to think it'd be a tale of, if first you don't succeed, try again. No, it would, I don't know. I don't even know what the message would be in that from an artistic perspective or like a filmmaking perspective. Because if he did though, and I hope that happens, just because it would be, the ultimate would be he makes the big one again, something, the next Sixth Sense, like you said, and then, mic drop and leaves the industry. That could be what he's trying to do. He could have, a huge blackboard in his basement or, his garage with all these movie ideas on it, and he thinks that one of them is going to be the big one.
So he can't wait to finally get another big hit so he can retire for good.
I just imagine, a big dry erase board in his garage, like, behind his Ferrari, and every morning he gets a cup of coffee and he walks out there, and there's like 200 different, one sentence plots for movies on it, and he just stares at it while he drinks his coffee, figuring out what the next one's going to be.
He's down to the one word titles. It's like old.
New. So winding down here, before we circle back to The Sixth Sense and our final scores on it, he's one of a kind. And that's a good quality to have in any type of art. And he's also someone, you can't always do this. You can't always be Rob Zombie or M. Night Shyamalan and be like, this is what I'm making and this, you just deal with it. Because that obviously doesn't work in the real world of music, television, film, etc. But it's admirable that he reached a certain level of fame, notoriety, and trust from studios that he just could start making just exactly what he wanted. That's a pretty cool place to be. That's a place a lot of people would love to be. And it doesn't come easily, and with good reason, because we saw, yes, arguably 3 times he was given free reign and it succeeded, but then way more times it did not. Through this journey, though, we found what he's good at, what he's bad at. We've been through the highest highs, lowest lows. And for all the joking and the, is it better than The Happening? Is it worse than The Happening? I'm okay with The Happening, The Last Airbender, Lady in the Water, After Earth, those movies. As bad as they are, I'm fine with those movies existing if it means that Signs can exist, if it means that The Sixth Sense can exist. In a lot of cases that would be backwards, like your shitty films come first and then it leads to the big crescendo, and it doesn't. But I'm perfectly fine with the fact that I sat through those movies. I didn't enjoy them. I'm not going to revisit them, but the fact that they're out there, but I can access Signs and The Sixth Sense, like that's all worth it to me. And that's just from me personally. It's an interesting journey, his career, and it's been an interesting journey on this, going through this. And we've talked about with some of these arcs that we've done on the podcast, it rings so much clearer, more clearly, and so much harder when you have all these, when you go through them in such a succinct succinct period of time. You know what I mean? If we had done one a year ago, one this year, one next year, it doesn't have as big of an impact. So the holes are glaring, but the lowest lows do not outweigh the highest highs at all.
Yep. Even though at this point, most people would argue that the lows are much more numerous than the highs, but still, it's like you said, I agree with you. It's worth it. And I haven't sworn off his movies. I've sworn off being excited about a new M. Night Shyamalan release, but I'm not at the point where I'm like, I'm not watching them anymore. I'll get too old eventually. Like, at some point it'll be streaming on Netflix or something and I'll watch it then. But I mean, there are filmmakers that I've sworn off because I'm like, we don't have enough in common to where I'm going to enjoy your movies. But with Shyamalan, it's happened at least 4 times for me because I actually enjoy The Village as well. So I'm still going to keep hope that could happen again.
Yeah. After watching this tonight, I have to keep hope up. Like, this dude made this movie. It could take 50 more tries, but it could still happen again. Just keep trying.
Don't give up at night. We believe in you.
Or, we'll get 30 years down the line here and he's still trying. And if I have kids or, a niece or nephew, it's like, well, let me tell you. Back in my day, this guy made a movie that changed the world. Oh, boy. What a journey it's been. It's been a lot of fun, and putting a bow on it here, I'm going with an A+ for The Sixth Sense. I think it is everything negative that people say about it. There's some merit to it, but I don't care because all the positives of it work so well that it completely erases in my mind any of the holes that could potentially be there. And that's, of course, just my opinion, but A+ on my end.
I am surprising myself by agreeing with you and giving it 5 stars.
Boom!
As this movie was wrapping up, and I was kind of like, blinking away the tears as the credits rolled. I was like, is this my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie now? That can't be right. I need to rewatch Unbreakable and really settle this once and for all. If
I do too. I need to rewatch that, and yeah, that could potentially be we circle back for a patron
yeah.
exclusive, yeah.
Yeah, but if The Sixth Sense is not my new favorite, it's definitely now the solid number 2, right under Unbreakable. It's so much better than I thought it was going to be on rewatch. So, yeah, 5 stars.
Well, there it is. Mr. Shyamalan, we thank you for it all. The tears, the laughter, the anger, the confusion. That completes the Shyamalanthology here on the Contrarians. And we thank you, the listeners.
Or does it, Alex?
Never know, I guess. That completes this installment of the Shyamalanthology.
Well, we have an epilogue of sorts for the Shyamalanthology that's not going to take place in the Contrarians. Our friend Sam from Movie Reviews and 20 Qs has invited us to be on his show again. And he let us pick the movie, and Alex and I had a little discussion, and we decided to do The Village. So The Village won't get the Contrarians treatment, but it will get the Movie Reviews and 20 Qs treatment, which is just as fun and maybe even better than us having to try to sort out if we're going to be positive or negative on The Village. I mean, you haven't seen it, right, Alex?
I have not.
Okay.
So, I mean, at this point, why not? Let's just get all these out of
Yeah, exactly. It just seemed like if it was going to happen, why not do it now? So keep an eye out for that. Keep an ear out for that. We'll obviously post it everywhere on our social media and let you guys know once the episode is out. But as of this recording, we haven't even watched the movie yet. So, but it's coming. It's in the future.
Julio, what's on deck for the Contrarians proper?
Well, speaking of the future, speaking of patrons, that's it, Alex. You can't escape what's coming, and what's coming is Will Smith as a superhero.
God.
Will Smith, Jason Bateman, Charlize Theron, Peter Berg behind the camera. It is Hancock.
Punishment, penance. This is Ryan from Spit and Polish tagging me back for recommending they cover the Peter Berg film Very Bad Things, which they enjoyed. So I don't know why the punishment is coming this way, but I guess
maybe they enjoy
the way it
Hancock.
goes. Nobody enjoyed Hancock.
It'll be fun. So that's in the future. That, and then of course the natural selection bonus episode just for patrons, which we'll record later this week or later this month.
All right. Well, that's what's on deck. That completes the Shyamalan anthology. Before we get out of here, we need to move along to our perennial plugs and give a thanks to the Festive Years who provide our opening and closing tracks. They kick us off with Last Stand, take us home with Summer of 99. Appropriate for 6 cents. Be sure to head over to thefestiveyears.com for any and all Festive Years needs.
Our friend and fellow podcaster Hans Rothgieser is the man behind our logo, the man behind all the graphics on our webpage, on our Patreon page, on our upcoming merch. He is great. Hans can be contacted on Twitter at Mildemonios, MILDEMONIOS, or you can email him, mildemonios@hotmail.com, or you can check out his website, mildemonios.pe, to see all the stuff that he's working on. He's a novelist, he has podcasts, he does it all. And actually he has a novel that's already on sale, only in Peru, sadly. So all of you American listeners from all around the world, gonna have to wait a little to get it. But it's another anthology of sorts. It's a fake Peruvian history book. Each chapter is about Peruvian history if zombies had been part of it. And I know he invited me to write one chapter, and it was a lot of fun. I don't really do prose very often. It was nice to flex that muscle, and he sent me pictures of the book. Now it's out. It's called Historia del Perú, like Peruvian history, but instead of the S in history, it's a Z, because zombies. Sounds like a lot of fun. I can't wait to read the whole thing. But anyway, Hans, thank you for all your support.
And lastly, Ms. Zoe Perez, our social media guru. She helps curate our Instagram and Facebook game. If you haven't already, facebook.com/Contrarian Prime. Give us a like. And Instagram @Contrarian Prime. We're on there. That's where Zoe makes audio clips, interactive graphics, video clips for us. A bunch of cool stuff. It really helps get our brand and image out there. So Zoe, we appreciate all that you do. And with all that out of the way, finally bringing to an end this whopper of an episode. We hope you all enjoy it, and we thank you all for joining us here on the Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong, and we will catch you next time.
The summer of 1999.